Ooh, that's a photo.
Hey there, I'm Tiffany,
And I'm Andrea.
and we are relatively unstable. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, save our posts, come back to them later, or just let them sit in your save box. Help people, help the algorithms find us. Uh, we need them to. So let's see. It's been a minute. It's been a whole minute since we talked last.
It's been a whole minute.
Right. Last time we had a couple singles on, and we do have an update. We have an update. Our resident single lady Nicole has gotten on social media. She's back on.
And she's looking
So
fantastic, posting and, being quirky and funny and cute. So
real cute.
I feel like
So
just moments before her inbox is being flooded.
yep, slide into that DM, Nicole and Treese. Isn't it?
Hmm.
I think that's her Instagram handle.
Hmm.
She's doing all kind of workouts and whatnot. So see what's up with her.
Ask for days.
Yeah,
Fellas.
ask. Yeah, yeah. So Andrea, we were just talking before we started recording.
We didn't have a
We
whole
were talking.
ass before we even started recording.
We did. Um, and so we were talking about a meme that popped up this week and read us for filth, and on two different sides. So the meme says, it's been 3 days since my therapist was like, you're so very open about vulnerable topics, but is that the same as actually being vulnerable? Is it?
Red for filth.
Because
Red.
both of us are oversharers.
Yes, very much so.
Both of us are oversharers. However, I think of myself as an open book. I think of myself as somebody who you can almost ask anything. However, I have to be accountable for a very real, what do you call those things? Barbed wire fence
Mm.
that is up around me. So you can see through it, but I advise you not to climb over it unless I open,
Unless
unless
you
I
open
open.
up the gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't,
And
yeah.
I feel like for me, I mean, I definitely was red for filth with this meme. But I feel like maybe I overshare things that maybe people think that I'm vulnerable because I overshare things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Like I talk a lot about my dad's passing. I talk a lot about well, not a lot, but I have mentioned that my mom and our relationship is not like the greatest. That is very surface or whatever. Um, and I guess those are things that people don't really talk about, but I guess maybe the other side of this meme is that why don't people talk about that kind of stuff? And like why is that seen
Exactly.
and why is that seen as oversharing or um being vulnerable when I mean everybody has lost somebody. um I will say it's a different feeling when you lose a parent. It's a
Yeah.
different and it's even more different when you're a woman that loses a father. So like that's a whole nother thing,
Layer.
layer. Yeah. um Lots of people don't have great relationships with their parents or great relationships with people that are family. So like should that be an off top I mean what's the word I'm trying to say? Should that be
Off
off
limits.
limits? conversation anyway. Like, I don't
You're
know.
asking me, and I don't think anything is off limits. Like, I really don't think much is off limits. And I think part of the reason why for me is, one, because I grew up in a family where there were no boundaries,
Hmm.
like no conversation boundaries. And two, as I've come into my own person, I also feel, I would even say there's some sort of therapeutic element for me to be able to talk about what I want to talk about, which of course that's why, social media is so addictive, because we can say whatever we want. We own our page, we own our thoughts. We can be, that's why we're doing this right now. We can be as opinionated as we fucking want to be. So, and I am an opinionated person, and often opinionated people, and people who are more vocal get seen in certain ways. But I think too, we, when I was a teenager, like, I didn't realize, it took me going into other people's homes. I did not realize how private people are.
Hmm.
And it's hard for me to trust that level of privacy. And I can be like, I can be secretive. I give out information as I feel comfortable giving it out. But if if I am like in 100% trust, which sometimes that's with perfect strangers, if I feel 100% comfortable, then, I mean, you can pretty much get any information out of me about my life. I don't think anybody's that interested in those deepest parts of me, but I I never understood the whole keep the family business in the house. It's an uncomfortable feeling. And I remember going to my best friend's house, and there was something that her mother said, like, in about telling, not telling, family business outside of the house or something like that. And it like, immediately, as comfortable as I was with them, it just doesn't feel good to me. Because I just don't understand it. I'm like, I expect you to accept me. Remember when Olivia was on? We had Olivia and Lauren on the show, and Olivia was saying that about, being with us being sisters, we had this false sense of security that everyone would accept us the way that our family accepts us.
Right. Yeah. And see, and I come from the complete opposite of family. Like, my family, first of all, my family is very small, so that's another way that we're different. But um my family doesn't talk about anything. So, like, you know, I'm on a, I mean, and I've posted this to Facebook, but screenshots of, my mom good mornings and good nights me to death. And that's literally all she says to me all day long, every day. So, like, we
Uh-huh.
don't have conversations about substantive things, or like, I'm in a similar text conversation with my 70 something year old uncle. He's the last of my father's brothers that's
Uh-huh.
alive. And we just, how you doing, each other to death. And that's all like. And I know that there's things going on in his life. He's an older guy, he lives by himself. I don't really know what's going on with his health. Even when I ask, it's very, oh, it'll be okay. Oh, I just got to do this. Like, there's no, so I don't even, I don't even get any business to share outside of the house, because we don't talk about anything. So, and I think that maybe that's part of the reason why I am, I feel comfortable sharing stuff. I think it's that. And I also think that because I'm an only child, and I haven't had anybody to like relate to on certain things. So, like, I'll put stuff out there just because I want to see if other people have gone through this, and then to
Mhm.
commiserate, or, celebrate it, or whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I guess I probably need to talk to my therapist about whether I'm vulnerable or not, because I don't really know. Like, I don't really know if what I put out there, I mean, I think I am, like, interpersonally, but I don't know. I don't know. All I know
And
is I
I
feel
think,
attacked.
yeah, but I think I am too, and I agree with you. I felt a certain way about it sparked reflection. And I like, even in my work, I put myself out there probably more than I should. But in my personal life on social media, which is not so personal, if I don't say something about my life, it's because um I know that it's because it will make somebody else uncomfortable,
Exactly.
because it has like and even then I try to find ways around it if it's something I have to get off my chest or something I have to relate to about. So like, my partner is a very private person, which probably, even saying that, I shouldn't, but a very private person. I am not, and I never have been. And I've been shy, which is different,
Mhm.
but I never have I been private. There are times when I probably needed to be more private, but that that level of privacy does not, I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm uncomfortable um with so like, my mom's side of the family was just very open and vocal. My dad's side is the lower your voice when you say something about so and so, or if it's said at all.
Mhm.
So we're coming up on a year since we lost my grandmother, and bless her, but she was the most private person. Like, today, like, after she died last year, I spent so much time trying to dig up pieces of her life, because she's done such a good job of covering it up. And I don't feel any type of way or disrespect about wanting to uncover these things about her life. I don't feel, I'm like, she might not have wanted it discovered then, but now it's her story for me. I'm like, you lived, you're no longer here in body. Now I want to know. I want
Right.
to know what it is that made you how you were, that then made my father, how it influenced how my father was, and now has influenced how I am, which is now influencing my children. I want to know. I
And
want to know all the dirt. I want to know. It's not even about gossip. I think some of it is, some of the potential things that I'm onto are super cool. Like, it's a whole story, but everything was so private.
I think
It's
that
frustrating.
and I think that, I mean, this kind of like segues into Black parenting, and
Mhm.
like how, you know, you speak, don't speak unless you're spoken to, like all of these things that kept us, I mean, and they were survival tactics from way, way back, like
Right.
our grandparents, our great grandparents, blah, 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 blah. Like, they had to be a certain kind of way to kind of get through the bullshit that they were dealing with in a society level. But like now though, like like we can be breaking these curses and these traditions and these ways that have kept us, not really fully grasping or being able to navigate our own lives or our children's lives or relationships, because we don't know why such and such did this way, or we don't know why it was so taboo to talk about that. Like, and I just feel like you and like some of the other moms I know are really parenting their children in a much more open and like, I guess I don't know of another word that means open, but another just open way, so that
Transparent, authentic. Like, I want
yeah.
my children to be able to say, to know that there's never a circumstance in which they can't speak up. And the parenting style that you're talking about lends itself to that very trauma, lends itself to that very environment and dynamic, because you say, oh, don't speak unless spoken to, or children should be seen and not heard, which people don't say that anymore, but the mentality is still there.
Right. Right.
And what that tells the child is, okay, you told me one thing, you told me, tell you if anything ever happens to me, or but what they're learning is they really can't trust you when they have something to say. That's what they're really learning in that dynamic. And people would at me and come at me, but I truly wholeheartedly believe that. I look at something that happened to my father that I found out about. I found out in my digging about my grandmother, something I found out that happened to my dad as a child. He never told anyone except for his sister. And that's only because she was indirectly involved. And that wasn't until he was an adult, but it's something that he carried with him. And knowing my grandmother and knowing things about her, I know why he wouldn't have told her.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he happened to tell her, she would have swept it under the rug.
Right.
And it was something that should have been dealt with. And that's not a judgment. That's just saying that if there was a healthier environment, if there was a healthier conditioning, that's something that could have been dealt with.
Right.
And he wouldn't have had to live with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, like I just think about my mom, and you know, unfortunately, like I said, my family is small, and the older folks most of them have passed away. So I wouldn't even know where to start to dig for anything. And then my mom's memory is not the greatest anymore. So, and also she's just not really a talker. So, like, asking her is like a crapshoot. My aunt, who is very much a talker, very much a talker, um, she almost seems like, this is odd that she's like this, because she's a librarian. So like you would think that her like quest for knowledge would just like kind of override this, but like she seems like very annoyed when I ask her questions about like how was it growing up with my grandparents, how was it growing up with my great grandparents, and relationships with uncles and aunts and all. She just seemed very, very annoyed that I asked.
Mhm.
So I don't
Probably
know.
uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
that's even like that's uncomfortable for them to have to like dig into that stuff.
And
I
why? So now that is a case study on this meme that we're talking about. Like,
Mhm.
you know, I wouldn't consider either my mom or my aunt to be vulnerable per se, but they are definitely very protective of their narrative, and like not wanting to
Yeah.
feel too much, and not wanting to say too much, and not wanting to like really go there, like you said, really to dig into like family shit. So yeah, it's weird.
And I feel like thinking back on like I've always, like I said, I've always been open, but I've never been completely comfortable with who I am for whatever reason. So, back in the day, or in my 20s, it was, I wasn't comfortable with being a single mother. I was comfortable with being a mother, but I was always fearful of judgment. So I think in some ways either misrepresenting myself sometimes, or um, even acting out in certain ways that were not necessarily characteristic of myself, because I felt threatened or judged, and I know that there is a lot of that, but I also, and it's just so very clear that there's such a push. If it's like you're either the person that's pushing, you
Mhm.
know for therapy and advocating for therapy, or you're the person that's like, oh, that's in the past, that doesn't have any bearing on my life now. Yeah, I know it happened, but what's that got to do with today?
Right.
And don't really understand, you know, even if you had a seemingly functional childhood, which most people haven't, even if you had a seemingly functional childhood, how you're still impacted. I had a seemingly functional childhood. I had two parents. I had, this big family, but there was quite a bit of dysfunction.
Mhm.
So even still, you need to deal with that. And then on top of that, if you're going to join your life with somebody else's particular or interact with people in general, i.e., work, make a living, it's always a good idea to really dive in and figure out who you are and then own it. Like,
Right.
it's hard for people to own who they are. And I don't know if it's, keeping up with other people. Even back in the day before social media, there were gossips and town criers or whatever. So I get that. And I know that there was so much worry about what people said about you and what people thought about your family. And, you know, we are more of a, I think, particularly our generation are more of a, I don't really give a fuck what you think about me,
Right.
especially
Right.
then on top of that, we're all either in or entering our 40s. So that lends itself to a different set of, I don't give a fuck niche. I don't
Right. Right.
but like I'm trying to, um, it requires a level of empathy that I haven't developed, I think, to understand that level of privacy. I think that's what it is, empathy. Like, I just don't get it.
Right.
I just
Right.
don't get it.
So then the other piece of that meme was, and this is where I think they might have even said this word, deception. So like, I guess pretending to be vulnerable to endear people to you,
Hmm.
and but there's some deception there because now this person thinks that you guys have a closer relationship, or that you guys are,
Yeah,
like, better friends than you are in real life. and
yeah,
and how that's just like all a facade, because you're just, it's something that we talked about in a several podcasts earlier, like giving people just enough to make them feel like they know you, but then they don't really
yeah,
know you. So like,
yeah,
that's, I mean, that's the other part of it that read me to filth, because I feel like I do that, but and I guess it is deception, but I guess I don't really think of it that way. I think of it as just like, you know, not everybody gets tickets to this train. Like,
yeah,
like, and you just, like, some people stops are super early and some people stops are at the end. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. And I mean, on that, I would say that I don't, again, to your point, I don't know if it's deception, but there's definitely a lot of sharing what's more. I think what you see from me is sharing of the stuff that I can't or haven't really processed.
mm,
So there's a vulnerability there, but then there may be parts of it that I haven't really broken down, processed, dealt with. So I'm searching for that relatability. I'm searching for, not even all the time on purpose, but there's looking for um some sort of answer from somebody, you know what I'm saying, or from who can understand. Because the thing about social media, so there's you know several hundred people in which you're connected to, probably if you have, let's say, 1,000 people, 1,000 Facebook connections, you probably only closely know, let's say, 150 of them. I mean, it sounds like a big number, but in your 30s and 40s, you've amassed a great deal of relationships.
Right.
So, you know, and whether you know the person now or you've known the person in the past closely, there's been a closeness where you are, you know, so, but out of those 1,000 people, somebody's going to be able to uh, fill that gap. Somebody's going to be able, you know, not every gap, because that's the thing now. What we're also looking for constantly is some sort of completion or validation, you know, because we're in therapy, or we're not, but we're talking about the people who most likely are. We're in therapy, and we're what one of the first things we learn is everybody can't be everything to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't depend on any one person to fulfill all of your needs. And, you know, we all have myriad needs, but there is, so there is some level of not deception, because obviously you're not going to know my every thought, and I'm not going to express every thought that I have, because I have some really shady, sinister, like off the wall, you know, not nobody else should hear this thought in my head. Thoughts. I
Right.
do, like, I'm just not that good of, or stable, relative stable of a person, that I don't have some really shitty thoughts. And so I'm not going to share them all.
Right. And
But I don't think that, but I'm going to share it with somebody. That's the
right.
thing. Like, somebody is going to get it.
Right. And I also feel like, um, you know, so there's this Childish Gambino song, and bear with me, it's going to come full circle. Um, so it's this Childish Gambino song, and he talks about how he was how he was at camp. You know, I don't know if this is true or not, but in the song he was talking about he was at camp, and he liked this girl, and he was and he made this, like, he said this like grand gesture of like, we're going to be together, and it's destiny for us to be together or something. And they were like
Mhm.
13 years old, whatever. And so she she went back to her friends and told them, and probably like exaggerated it or whatever. And so he was like, so in this breakdown of the song, he says, you know, you told them, and so then I started just telling everybody everything so that nobody could have anything against me, essentially. That's
Mhm.
it. You know, so
Yeah.
like, I give everything to everybody. So like nobody can come back and say, oh, I got you on this,
Yeah.
or, you know, I found this out about you. Like, no, you know everything. I tell you everything. Oh, also Sammy is saying something. Okay. So I mean, that's another way to approach it. Like, that's another way to
Yeah.
think about it. Like, whatever I'm sharing, like, you can't use it to blackmail me. Like, you can't use it to, you know, or make me feel bad about it. Like,
Yeah.
and it's, I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about before we started recording, about how, like, things that people using the things that they know about you to, that they know will trigger you, yourself, you know, your things that you're
Yeah.
self-conscious about, using those to really push that button. And so if I come out and say, well, I already know I'm this kind of person, I already know I'm that kind of person, I've already been through this, I've already done these things, um so you can't, like, I'm aware of that already, so you can't use that against
Right.
me. You can't, you know,
I'm not
so
giving you that kind of power over my
right,
information or my
right,
experience.
right.
Yeah, and I'm with that approach. I'm actually with that approach. If it's something I can get in front of, and I've been burned. Like I've been so burned for oversharing, and I know that I know that there are people who probably don't because of something like that. But when I tell you, like, I mean, like, I think I've already mentioned this, like recorded phone calls and you know
Oh yeah.
between stuff like that. And um but in the end, after you get over the initial shock of it, and yeah, I could have approached it differently, I could have handled my emotions differently, um but in the end, given a one-on-one conversation, or why do I that's one of the things that my therapist has said, like, you have every right to express how you feel, and you can do it with whomever you feel like expressing it. And I will also say this, you mentioned losing your dad, and we know that I've lost my dad as well. And what I definitely believe is that it's very cliche, but you have to say it while the person is here.
Mm-hmm.
So if or find out the information while the person is here.
Mm-hmm.
um and I'm like, if I say it, it's on the table, and now it's no longer my information. Do with it what you will, but I own it. I mean, so I said it's no longer my information, but it's no longer my information to act on. I
Right.
own it. So I've gifted you with that information about myself. If you're if you choose to be worthy of it or not, and now again, that's me. That's with full trust.
Right. Right.
And sometimes that full trust is with strangers. Again, that's just, because there's no investment.
Right. Right. And there's no and there's almost no risk either, like
Right.
with a stranger at least.
Right.
Um
Exactly.
um so this this might be off subject, but maybe it's kind of on subject. So what's your take on because I was recently in a situation like this. What's your take on, let's say, something happened between you and a good friend that involved their good friend. So you are kind of friends with their good friend, but not really at all.
Okay.
But these things, whatever happened, definitely happened to all three of you at the same time. This was a shared experience,
Okay.
not sexual. Just to clarify.
Let's be
Um,
clear.
just to be
No
clear.
judgment. That
No
ain't us.
judgment, no judgment, but that's not what I'm talking about. Um,
Yeah.
so who do you think, or do you think it's appropriate to talk about the situation? Um, like if because you're not friends with the other person's good friend, so you essentially telling their business, but you were also involved, so it's also your business. So like, what do you think about that? If you know, like, if you understand what I'm saying.
I think I understand what you're saying, because there are different friendship dynamics, and then you end up intermingling friendships, and then you have like these different branches. So for example, and tell just for clarification. So Lauren, Olivia, and I. And so if you missed the episode, those are my sisters. Lauren and Olivia and I have a group chat.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Lauren and I have a group chat, a separate chat. Olivia and I have a separate chat. Uh, Olivia, Lauren, Adam, and I have a separate chat, separate from my parents. My father was in the family chat before. We have a chat that excludes Eric. So Is that kind of the dynamic you're talking about, where it's like a group, but then there's like these side conversations, and how do you?
Yes, kind of. So, okay, I'll just tell it without saying names. So,
Okay.
um, I have a friend who I dated 20 something years ago now, but we maintained a friendship afterwards. Him and I and his girlfriend at the time hung out.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, she was not very happy about that. Even though there
Oh,
was nothing going on between me and the guy and hadn't been
okay.
in years, she wasn't happy about it. So, he- so, and I told the story on Facebook about how she had every reason to not want me to be there to hang out with them. She had every reason to be upset. And it was silly of me to think that she wouldn't be. Again, this was like in my 20s.
Yeah. Okay.
And so my friend said to me, well, that essentially that wasn't really your story to tell, or you telling your side of the story sheds light on her in a not so good way. And so I was like, so my stance was, but it was also my story. It also happened to me. So like,
Yeah. Right.
can I not say what happened to me? Like, I mean,
Oh,
I
yes,
guess
the fuck you can. I think you can. I
right.
think you can. I think it's different if I think there are. I think because we were also touching on this before, there are some stories that are yours to tell, and if you're part of it, and some stories that um in some, I should say, in some situations where you need to understand it is only your story and you don't need to bring anyone else into it. So in this case, yes, it was your story to tell, I think. And it's kind of like, you know, I don't, I was listening to Adele earlier, and I was thinking about, she just, her divorce just got finalized after forever, but there was, I don't know if it was true or not, that her ex-husband was like, I'll give you custody as long as you don't write any songs about our relationship. It's like, well, one, who are you to, one, how will you ever prove that if she writes a song that's her feelings, it's about your relationship? But two,
Right,
that's also her story to tell. So she can't tell her story in her particular art form, because
right,
the reality is, even if she doesn't sing it to the world, she's going to sing it. That story will be told in some way, shape, or form, and it's going to be from her point of view. Just like you're going to tell the story of the relationship to someone from your point of view, and someone could very well argue me and say, no, he's not necessarily going to tell anybody anything. He's going to say something to somebody,
yes.
and it is only going to be from his point of view. You
And
have your point of view.
and you also have to be okay with the fact that in their version of the story, you will most likely be the villain, even if you weren't the villain by all, like anybody that hears the actual factual story, even if nobody thinks that you are the villain in someone else's story, you might be.
Yes, I know that I am the villain in a story or 7 or 10. Like, I know it. But but the thing is, I can tell my side. I can still tell my side if I need to. We don't always need to. Sometimes you can just walk away from a situation and be okay with it. The situation you're talking about hurt you. Like, that's hurtful, or it stung you, or something about it didn't sit right with you. And going back to what we were talking about, that is your way of processing, telling that story. It was on your mind. That is a way of processing that story to, at some point, purge it.
Right.
At some point you purge it because you've worked through it. But that goes back to the very beginning of the conversation. We don't talk about shit to purge it, and therefore it ends up sticking with us and our families forever.
Right. Right.
Forever.
Right. Right.
You
and
have a 46-year-old looking for herself, searching to find herself.
right, but it's true though. I mean, and then because we don't purge, because we don't talk, we take those feelings, like you said, into our families and our relationships, and particularly in our romantic relationships, where I mean, it's just ripe for all kind of baggage and all kinds of stuff that you bring along from everybody else that you've dated. So yeah, it's like that should be the stuff that we talk about the most, so that we don't take it to the next person, and we don't like keep it swirling in our heads for whatever reason. As you know, I had something swirling around my head a couple weeks ago. But so like, yeah, and then to circle all the way back to the meme, like, is that being vulnerable, or is that masquerading as being vulnerable if we talk about that? And does it make it like, I guess, like, does it make it, should we feel some kind of way if we make other people feel bad when we tell our story, or like what?
So that's a thing. And let me tell you, like, because our story might trigger someone else's, or if it's so different, then it can come off um, as perhaps disparaging toward the other person's story. But that goes to us not allowing people to be authentic and vulnerable. Like, I can't expect to have a conversation. I can be annoyed, but I can't expect to have a conversation with my girlfriend who grew up in Bloomfield Hills with, a certain lifestyle and a celebrity parent. And I can't expect her to tell her story and it be similar to mine.
Mhm.
There are similarities. There are some similarities, but her experience, the way she experienced her life, is not going to be the same as mine, who grew up in a middle class neighborhood, you know,
Mhm.
with a father who worked his way through school, like that kind of thing. So um some of her story is, when she tells it, I'm not going to understand it, but I have to accept that that is her experience. And it was so funny because one time she came to me and she said, I know she does not listen to this, but but even if she did, I would own it. One time she came to me and said, oh my God. I'm paraphrasing, but she's so like, oh my God, my life is ruined. My cleaning lady, and she started to talk about some issue she was having with her cleaning lady. I'm like, you cannot talk about your life being ruined and then next breath say,
My
my
cleaning
cleaning
lady.
lady. You can't start the thought with my cleaning lady. Like, if you have a cleaning person, you are doing okay. So let's go
In
back a
some kind
little
of
bit.
way, right, right.
But for her, and there was, and actually the thing is, she had a lot more going on at the time, but the cleaning lady situation broke her down that day. And she's not a person that's easily broken down. But
Mhm.
for me, I'm like, the person who won, we see how this is neat. This
Right.
little, and if you look around me, I have a a bag of M&Ms full of trash because I haven't gotten up to take it. Or, like, I have to respect that, even though I do not understand it, but if we can talk about those things, I can find something in there. Now, and she'll never understand my experience because it's so far away from hers.
Mhm.
Um, but I still, and she's actually a good example of somebody who's very open and transparent, but also lived a very protected life. So it's like you can't so when I talk about me not understanding, I didn't grow up in the life that she grew up, where maybe there were things that had to be protected for a certain reason, you know.
Right.
But it still doesn't make, I'm still like, no, but you know, and I'm so inquisitive. I want to know about this. I want, like, there's the Pisces, there's the fish that swims in the direction of, I just really don't care about that. I don't give a fuck. Please don't tell me. Please, I don't, you know, like, that is, what does that have to do with what I'm trying to do right now? Usually is something ridiculous. And then there's the side of me that is super inquisitive and nosy and wants to, like, that kind of, like, that communications person in me that wants to know everything, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But you know, I take it and leave it. Like, it could be at any given moment, I could swim in either direction. I can either care a whole lot and I can't sleep until I get to the bottom of something, whether it be out of sheer nosiness or whatever. But often I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, Andrea. And here's my question to you. What is an example of being deceptively vulnerable? And
Hmm.
what's the difference between being deceptively vulnerable? Because I've heard people who talk, like, I've been around people who talk and they just talk and they're telling things about their life or experience, but they're not really sharing. Do you understand? Like, so they're parading, as you said, a narrative, but it's not the real narrative. So is there a difference between being genuinely vulnerable or being genuinely open about vulnerable topics,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then not being able to be forthcoming? So, or I should say, shaping a narrative to fit your comfort level. Does that make sense? Probably
Mm-hmm.
not.
Yes, it does. Um, the very first example that popped into my head is these like social media influencer folks. So there's one girl that I don't even think I follow her anymore, but she and I think that this is exactly this is such a big thing that happens on social media, and it falls like squarely into the like deceptively vulnerable. So
Mm-hmm.
this this woman, um she's a well-to-do person. She's a designer, like a web and graphic designer.
Mm-hmm.
Um and all her posts are very like um like they're like shot and like very like artistic and like not just like a selfie that she took when she woke up, but like
Yeah.
whole like photo shoot type shit. And um she made this one post one time, and I think that this was the one thing that stopped me from following her. She made a post one time.
Because it only takes one thing.
It literally, like, sidebar, I unfollowed somebody because of what somebody in their comments said. I was like, if this the kind of people that you converse with, then I don't need to follow you either. But that's a whole other story.
My
So
unfollowed finger is itchy.
it takes me like not even a nanosecond. Um, so in this one particular post, so it was like a very like styled, beautiful photo of herself. And she was talking about how she had been depressed because one of her friends, um, the way that she wrote it, it alluded to it made it seem like the friend that she was talking about actually committed suicide. The friend didn't. But within this post that wasn't like paragraphs long, maybe a paragraph, she talked about how she was depressed, how this friend had been going through something bad that led her to consider taking her life or trying to take her life or whatever, and then wrapped it up in a very beautiful bow of, this is why I push my business so hard or some shit. And it was just like, it was one of those moments where I was just like, that feels disgusting. Like
Yeah,
that
like you're
really,
using someone else's story to,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so you're using someone else's vulnerability
right,
to, who hasn't given you permission,
right, right.
it's, and for me, I sometimes feel like I have to watch myself for crossing the line, because it is my job to tell stories, like
Mm,
literally my job. But the, and that's what I like to do. I do love to tell other people's stories.
right.
And so I do, I I wouldn't do that shit. That's, like you said, that is not, I see the shit that I think the what comes to mind for me, like the fake vulnerable, is the, and we talk about this a lot. I think I talk about this a lot. The fake thirst trap. So the constant posting of yourself in the best light, but it's like, like, um and if you watch all the videos, which I do watch, the influencer videos that tell you how to gain social media following, promote yourself, which fine, promote yourself, but be real about it, I
Right,
guess.
right.
It still might get on my nerves, but I'll respect it if you're real about it, instead of like this, like full glam or full, you know, um, with, like open, like, these captions, opening myself up to new things,
Yes,
or
yes,
new life, this thing, do you understand? I am.
yeah, yeah. And another example that came to my mind, but to finish, to respond to what you said, yeah, those posts, and it's funny because I have thought about, like, oh, so to get a lot of followers or to get a lot of like social engagement, do I just need to like put like the best photo of myself and then put like some random like song lyric
Right.
that's like half humble brag but half self-care type shit, like, because that's what the shit is. It's like, you know, I grab my own, I am my own bag or some other bullshit that they
Yeah,
were
shit
saying
like
that
that. And
like,
then you're like, but when you really want to be like, the caption should really be, I'm in a lot of pain and I'm not getting enough attention. And I
right,
really
right,
would like a real true friend right now.
right,
Like
right,
I really want my husband to pay attention to me, or I really want my kids to behave, or,
right,
it's like, but it's like these, or I really haven't had, like Nicole, who was extremely vulnerable with us, who said, I haven't had a hug in 6 months. Like really, that's the real caption, but
right,
instead the caption says whatever you just said,
right, right, right.
uh
But then the other thing that I think of, and this is another like designer lady. Like, I guess designers are kind of like a,
it's creatives. I mean, think about
yeah,
how lonely the life of a creative can be inside your own head, and it's
yep,
hard. There's no real practical uh path about it, so it's hard for people to understand understand, and you're
Right.
constantly searching for understanding, but the reality is you have to accept that you won't be understood.
Right. Right. So there's this one designer lady who is like, um fair to say that she's like a celebrity designer. So like, you know, millions and millions of followers have
Mhm.
been has been working, um for 20 plus years. Like, you can say her name and people automatically know, like, if they're in this community, like, people know who she is. So she had launched a new product probably about maybe like 10 years ago now, I guess. And
You have a good ass memory.
and I remember when she posted it, because she was like, "Oh, this product that I just launched, I'm just, I got this call from MoMA, and I almost just couldn't believe it. Like, I thought somebody was pranking me, because MoMA wants to carry my new product in their like museum gift store." And I'm thinking to myself, like, I mean, technically, I guess this is like, it's not really a humble brag. I think it's more like a vulnerable brag, if we can make up that terminology. But it's like, in that post, you are showing or describing a feeling of like, "Oh, I'm surprised, I'm excited that this is happening to me. I can't believe this is happening to me," which for someone like me would be that would be a surprise, if a, large art institution wanted to start carrying Paisley cards. Like, that would be like, "How the
They
fuck did you
should.
find me?" Like,
They should.
I mean, they really should, if y'all listening. But um
Should
but
we?
like, for someone, I mean, look how nice that is, right? But for someone who has like 2 million followers, has had international speaking engagements on design, who has been working for 20 plus years, like, it is not unusual that MoMA would reach out to you about that,
Right.
because you are a pillar in the community. You are in it.
Right. And sometimes I
You're one of
wonder if
the
shit
people.
like that is like having inexperienced PR people behind them or something who are thinking on that, like get real. Like you knew this was coming. You negotiated, you sat in a room with these people and negotiated this. You more than likely had someone from your team reach out to them,
Right,
you know, and you're right. There is, I can appreciate I'm really proud of myself,
right,
because I worked hard and this happened, you know, as opposed to the um I don't know, like that.
like just the fiending surprise, or fiending
Yeah.
like, "Oh my, I can't believe that they would just know about little old me." And like, little old you is 2 million followers deep. Like, little old
Right.
you is, somebody that is super duper popular, and has like had tons of success all over the world, not just in the United States. So it's that, and then it's like that kind of, I mean, and that's, like I said, that was like 10 something years ago, maybe. But like, this new wave of it on Instagram, of just like, you know, um, taking something that is serious, or that could be vulnerable, or could be used as a way to really show the human side of you, not just the business side of you, but taking that and making it be like, "Oh, well, look how hard I've had it, because I'm doing this thing, and I'm sharing this sad thing that happened to me, or this bad thing that happened to me, or I'm sharing the struggle of my business." But there's something about it that doesn't feel genuine, and it feels like I'm doing it so that I'm pretending to be a real person, basically. I'm pretending to be this
Yeah.
real person, and but this is just a story for the gram, basically. Or it might be true, but I'm making it more than what it is.
And here's the thing, people eat that shit up.
Eat it up.
And I'm like, who? And I'm sitting there like I literally get embarrassed sometimes for people like, like, but then it leads to self-doubt of myself, like, oh my God, is this how people are viewing my posts? Or, I start doubting myself. But I just thought about the perfect example for me in my mind of what we're talking about when we're talking about like this deceptively vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Hospital bed pictures.
Oh gosh.
When people post, themselves in the hospital, that is like kind of like the epitome of this fake vulnerability, because what you're doing, I mean, like, now a person like you or me who often is posting, something on a given day, me more so than you, like you are post a lot of your art and a lot of your projects, but that's what you're doing on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I'm not really doing shit. So I'm posting my kids stuff, I'm posting me, I'm posting baseball, I'm posting, my coffee mug of the day, my t-shirt of the day, fuck around and find out. Shit that's just fun and entertaining me on a regular basis. Um, but I don't see myself, like, being in the hospital is a truly vulnerable thing. And I don't understand
Mm-hmm.
the um the urge, like, I could see myself, like, I'm like, what would precipitate me posting myself in a hospital bed? Probably, like, I would have to be there a few days, and there would have to be something humorous that I found,
Yeah. Yeah.
about the experience. Um, there would have to be something funny, but it wouldn't be the lead in with, you know, I'm in the hospital, feel sorry for me.
Right.
Like, I don't,
So then
that makes me uncomfortable.
so then that makes me wonder, because I have been called out for this several times, and I try not to do it so much, but I guess I always thought I did it in a funny kind of way, but I guess not. Um like, so where's the line between fake vulnerability and self-deprecating humor?
Mm, I can't help you with that, girl. I can't help you with that, girl, because my sister just got on me about something like that last week. Uh, so we'll both have to work on that together.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Like, I got several people have told me, like, you can kind of like ease up on that. Like, that's not, like, maybe you shouldn't do that so much. I personally think it's hilarious to laugh at myself, and I don't really mind it.
Hey,
I don't care. Like, I don't, I mean, and this is not like this is, at least I don't intend
I'm
it to
about to
be.
be real ghetto.
Girl, I don't care. My back is peeling from being sunburned, so I'm just all kind of itchy.
Perfect back scratcher.
So I don't really think it's like fake vulnerability, because like I'm not, whatever I post about that's like self deprecating, I really do find the humor in it. And I don't really, like, the things that I am really self conscious about or the things that trigger me, I don't self-deprecate about those things because
Exactly.
they are
Exactly. I
they're
was just
real
about to
to
go
me.
there.
Yeah, like they're real to me. So I don't have to do that. But things like my boobs sagging, yeah, that's funny to me. Yeah,
I mean, and it's something that you've already processed and worked through, and you can like, so, if I am talking about, so since we're doing this, if I'm talking about my pelvic floor, which I often refer to as trash, it's something that I'm comfortable talking about. I'm not comfortable talking about all of the ramifications of that, but what I know is that there are other women who know what I'm talking about.
right, right,
There are other women who know exactly what I'm talking about when I express that sentiment, you
right,
know. And so um I may not yet be comfortable with talking about all of the things that happen and all of the discomforts that come along with that, because it's bad. But but I can say that. I can comfortably say that. I think, you know, you talking about, your boobs finding a new home on your body is completely different, I think, in my mind, from the person that's like, constantly posting themselves in the best light. And then one day they post a picture that's very clearly staged of an imperfection, if you will.
right.
And then they're like, um, you know, oh, I always, I know people think I always look this way, but I've got this mole,
Right.
like, or, look at this fat hanging out of my, you know, sequin bikini.
Right. Right.
Like, when nobody's looking at the fat on their arm, they're looking at the fat on their ass that's hanging
Right.
out of the sequin bikini,
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
and they know it too, and so I don't know. We all want to relate. There are some people, like, I know, and I think I can speak for you too. Like, we've talked about this. Like, we want to relate to people. And we also at the same time want validation. We are human. We have that human need, and we're not always going to be getting it from our environment. We also want to um every once in a while want an accolade, want a compliment, want, even if it, I think there's a difference in wanting, like, of course I want, if I actually take the time, here goes the self-deprecating. If I take the time to put myself together, sure, you know, like, I made a joke about, my sister posted a picture of me a couple of weeks ago from her wedding. And I was like, that picture has gotten a lot of mileage because I don't ever look like that. Like, I never look like that. Whereas some women post a picture like that on a Saturday, whatever, they're constantly, me, this is done for me. And I haven't even showered or washed my face today, but I did brush my hair for this to, to be before you today. Um, you know, I'll take, I appreciate her doing it. And you and I were talking earlier, so I'm going to be vulnerable. I have, for the last few weeks, been feeling off, out of it, not myself, um a pity party, if you will. And my sister posted a picture of her sister-in-law for her birthday, and it was like this glamorous picture. And I was like, dang, like, my sister posted a picture of her sister-in-law and she looks all beautiful, and all my pictures are, you know looking busted. But but, which is why she posted that picture, because she would have never posted that picture of me had I not like expressed myself. But the thing about it is, I really truly in my heart of hearts, like 100% do love when she posts pictures of me that are me doing the stuff that I do and the stuff that she loves me for, because I do love seeing myself through her eyes. So if most of those pictures are with her dogs, she doesn't really post anything that's not me without her dogs. But if that's what she loves about me, if she loves the time that I spend with her dogs, then I love that and it makes me feel good. But I am not feeling the best about myself. I'm feeling aged. I'm feeling like out of shape. So, that was a trigger, because I'm like, wow, the person that I think the most of sees the beauty in somebody else. And I totally expect her to. And I see the beauty in this person too. I think she's gorgeous. And
Mhm.
all her pictures are stunning pictures. She's photogenic and she's in media. So that's going to be who she is.
Right.
Whereas I'm, just a mom. Like, and that's not disparaging, but that's who I am. I'm a soccer mom. And so when, you know, I felt like I was being vulnerable to them, and now I'm telling whoever else is listening. That's how I felt. But then it did feel good, you know, but also a little bit uncomfortable for, um, you know, that's the only picture I have where I'm
I,
looking halfway decent.
I totally get it. I totally get it. And this is another point that I thought of, like back when when I seemed like in all rapid succession, like people were saying to me, um, ease up on the self deprecation stuff. But so it made me think about, and I think I actually made a post about this years ago, but like wanted to see how you feel about it. But like I see, so I am in the stationary community, so there's tons of folks. No surprise, there's not a lot of black women in it. So a lot of Instagram posts from white women who make stationery and all of that. Like maybe, and I'm taking 2020 out of this because everybody was feeling a little crazy last year.
Yeah.
But like even in like 2018, 2019, you know, maybe every sixth or seventh post was talking about how they didn't feel like they were enough. They didn't feel like they were pushing themselves further or this and that. So, and not necessarily self deprecating and not necessarily, and I didn't get the fake vulnerability vibe from them. Like this is just real shit that they were going
Mhm.
through, feeling. And so then I thought to myself, so I can sit here and I can watch, and I'm not trying to make this a race thing, kind of, but like,
But we're black, so it's always about
so,
race.
I can sit here and I can read these posts from however many of these white women who are doing what I'm doing and are facing the same struggles and, being a small business, all of that. And maybe they do have people that are in their ear saying, oh, you need to ease up on this kind of messaging, or oh, you need to stop posting about that kind of stuff. But it's almost like black women can't be self deprecating because we have to hold up this idea of like black girl magic and black excellence, and like we can't, and like we also just can't it feels like we're not allowed to really just be like, I'm having a fucked up day or week or month or
My
quarter.
my meltdown Monday.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess it could be a little dramatic if that's all somebody posts all the time, which I don't
Yeah.
think that I was doing that. I don't think that you do that. But
But I
like,
do know some people who do,
yes. But
and
it's like,
they get, what is it, hidden, so I don't have to see them.
right, right.
I'm sorry. I feel for you, but
Yeah,
I
I
can't see
can't.
that shit every day. I got my own problems.
Right. I mean, because at some point it goes from being like sympathetic to triggering for me. And then I
Yeah.
start to like spiral into that mode too. And I don't need any help getting there. I can get there very safe on my own.
Right. I'm gonna have a real soft landing.
Right, right. But like, but yeah, but it's just I just remember feeling like okay, yeah, I make some jokes about myself. I talk about the things that are not going so well in life and in business or whatever, but like, I mean, I really had like several people talk to me, and I had other people talk to other people who then talk to me. So they didn't even talk to me directly. They talked to
And
me.
that's the shit that makes me mad.
Yeah.
Don't say to somebody, is she okay? Is she sad? Like, you can, the only person you can ask that is Lauren, but or Olivia. Like, don't ask other people, you
Hmm.
know, if they don't, you know, I won't say that, because there are people who are genuine. Like, if it's not out of genuine concern, and you don't, because there is sometimes where it's genuine concern, and that's
Right.
okay. So I don't want to do a hard don't ask other people about me. I don't want to do that, because I would be, one, a hypocrite, because there are times when I'll ask somebody else about somebody if I don't feel like, if I do feel like they are in trouble, or if I do feel like, I mean, shit, sometimes just because I'm a shitty person, I can't really say. Like, but, um, but yeah, that is, just don't make it more than it is. That's all.
Yeah.
Just don't make
Yeah.
it. Don't ask anyone that you know can't handle the information, or
Right.
can't handle the question.
Right. Right. So, I just feel like on top of just the regular Black woman pressure that we have in general, like, and I think 2020 has maybe changed this a little bit, like, because everybody feels the weight of last year and continuing into this year. So everybody's a little more open to kind of talk about, or, to talk about what they're feeling, or to talk about that they're in therapy, to talk about that, like, yeah, I'm working through some shit. But like, in general, I just feel like um this conversation has gone all the way,
Yeah,
because
it
now
has.
I'm about to introduce something completely different. But like,
Come on, come
there
with it.
there's this thing that, and I'm sure you've seen it on Instagram, or maybe, is that they're talking about like toxic positivity, and how like,
Yeah, yeah,
you know sometimes it's not helpful to just say, oh, it's going to be okay, everything happens for a reason, or all that other bullshit. Like, sometimes you really do need to say, you know what, this has really fucked my projections
yeah,
up, my ideas up, my future, even if it's future not meaning like 5 years from now, but future meaning like tomorrow, or in the
yeah.
next couple hours.
The
um
future in which I see myself functioning or
right,
not functioning.
right.
Yes.
And so like, I guess I just feel the pressure of like living up to this Black girl magic, when sometimes I don't feel fucking magical. I don't feel like I'm doing all of the right things at the right time most of the
Yeah.
time. And um and I don't necessarily want to, and even though my motto is what my motto is, and I
Right.
do really believe that, but like, there's some days where I'm just like, I know it's going to be all right, but it sucks right now. Like, it's
Yeah.
really not great right now,
Yeah.
and um I just feel like we just need to have more like we need to normalize real vulnerability, real, and also not take things that we like, a moment that I'm having that I happen to share on social media or whatever, and not take that as a complete full novel on my life in its
Yeah.
totality and how I feel about
Oh,
myself all the time. Like, no, I'm just talking about right now. It's not
you
great.
have you have cascaded into so many different things. So let me, I mean, like that's a whole other 6 hours, but now I have eyelash in my eye. Um, but what I will say is with that toxic positivity, that's one of the reasons why I don't like, and there's been a lot of loss. Sorry, I should edit that out, right? There's been a lot of loss. And one thing I have for certain learned after losing my father and my grandfather in 2017 is I don't, and I think I didn't do this to some degree before, but I don't say things like when people lose something or people are having a bad day, I try to let them live in that. And I don't say it'll be okay. Or,
Mm-hmm.
and what else is really hard is trying not to always be the problem solver. And that's
Right.
hard for people, especially when it's not your problem, because sometimes people just need to express it.
Yep.
And you know, but what I know, if somebody loses their parent, it's not going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're going to go on. Like, I'm living today. I'm with you. I love you. I'm so happy to see your face because we haven't seen each other in so long, but I'm not okay about that. So it's not going to be okay. It's
Right.
not. And I don't
Right.
expect for it to be okay for you. So what you'll get from me is a heart of empathy or something, because I can't put myself in your shoes. That wasn't my mother. That wasn't my father. That wasn't my sister. That wasn't my son. And I can express to you that I'm open to you, but I'm not also not going to, you know, make those empty promises, whatever. Like, I think you expressed something to me earlier this week, and I was like, what can I do to help? And I thought about it after that, and I was like, she's not going to tell me what I can do to help. If I want to help, I got to think of something to help on my own. And maybe doing that is just letting her come back around when she's ready to talk about it, or whatever the case may be. But when we're constantly, saying we're going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And I'm not saying we need to be mired in something forever, but if we're faking the funk constantly, we're never, ever going, one, we don't allow people into our space, which, to be able to empathize and to be able to commiserate or shit, just have a drink with us. Like,
Right.
I might not be compelled to invite you over for drinks if, you seem cool to me and I'm cool. So we'll get together when we do. But if you need a friend, then, you know, and I don't, um, you know, I'm often selfish and wrapped up, self-deprecating again, wrapped up in my own shit. I might not see it. Tell me you need that. That's all you need to do is tell me that you just need some time right now. Cause I don't know that, you know, because I'm a selfish person, but I'm also very open to entering the space that I'm asked to be in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've had to I mean, I feel like I lost my dad relatively early, so it was like kind of before
You
people
did.
started really like losing their parents. So what I have to be mindful of is um sharing my story
Yes.
when they are saying like this happened to me. I'm very sad about it. I mean, and that's an understatement, but like whatever.
Yeah.
then I have to be like, oh yeah, well, I lost my dad. And like, I had to really check myself on that because, um, yeah, like it's not about me. It's not about me and my
Yeah.
dad. And like you said, like, I'm not okay. Like, and I'm never going to be okay. Like,
Hmm.
there's, there's pre 2004 Andrea and there's post 2004 Andrea. And
Hmm.
those are two
Yeah.
different people. And like, I'm never
Yep.
going to be that other person again. Like, I can't be that other person again. So, um, so like, and that's, I mean, it's okay in the sense that I can't change it. So it has to be okay. But like, personally, like, no, like I think about my dad every single day in some,
Right.
whether it's like a 5-second thought or a whole breakdown and anything in between. That is my life. That's how I operate now. But
Yeah.
but I had to be mindful of like sharing my story. And I remember this conversation has really gone several different places.
Right. We're gonna wrap it up, guys. Hang on, hang on. We're wrapping it up. We're gonna wrap it up.
I just remember, um when I lost my dad, what I I remember what I needed, and I needed to feel at peace with what was with what happened. And
Yeah.
so that's what I prayed for. And so when someone shares their story, I always just say, like, I'm praying for your peace, because I know that's what I needed. I needed mental, as much as you can get in the hours, days, weeks immediately after that, like, just to even just get you through the next hour, just
Yeah.
peace, just calmness of mind, if that's possible. So, um yeah, that's all I got to say about that. We should probably wrap this up.
Well, we'll wrap this up, but I'm gonna just say this and hopefully bring it full circle. You know what you can do about that? Because you're right, you do. Right, you do. You think about that parent every single day, no matter what their relationship was, and the emotions run wide. And you telling me that, I am empathizing with you as you tell me that. And I actually had like one of those moments where, like, yeah, I'm praying for your peace. That's beautiful. And because it is something you don't have, so now you've had a vulnerable moment that now I can empathize with, because we actually do have that shared experience of losing a father. And I will say that I realized that, um one of the reasons why I don't think I'll ever have peace with losing my father when I did, is because I didn't expect him to be here forever, but I did expect us to both be tired by the time it was time for him to go. I
Yeah.
expected to be old enough that we were both tired of each other. Um,
That is a perfect way
uh,
to put that. That was a perfect way to put that. Yeah.
but what I will say is this: in those moments, you have impulses to act on whatever it is the feeling is, whether it's just to stop and think about it, um, whether it is to, look at his picture, whether it is to talk to him, or whether it is to be vulnerable on social media. So, and in that is real vulnerability, because somebody is thinking, and I know I often post about my dad, but and I just haven't worn thin of that yet. And in that moment, it's what I'm thinking, it's what I'm feeling. I don't expect any sympathy. I expect to get it off my chest and for that part of my story to be heard, because that is exactly what it is. It is not the fake arm fat in $600 bikini. It is while I'm on vacation and everybody else is cold. Like,
Right,
it
right.
is it is really just that need to connect, and to connect dots to that experience.
Yeah,
Did that bring it back?
that did bring it back.
We got some skill a little bit, do something. I don't know. So while Andrea and I are living lives for the next couple of weeks and finding other things to be vulnerable about, make sure you catch up on all the rest of our nonsense. Make sure you continue to share your stories and share ours. Um, Make sure you're liking, following, and sharing,
And
uh,
saving.
and saving all of our stuff. Just take like 60 seconds out of your day, just share all that kind of stuff. We dig you. We are so happy you hung in there. We told you we will wrap it up. We did. We will see you next time. Also found out this is really peace. This is actually a separation symbol. I'll have to figure out more about that. But
Oh,
right? I'm
I-
learning shit. I'm learning shit, all that kind of stuff, you know. So we will be back. We will be talking about something else, may or may not be relevant to you. Fuck around and find out. Bye.
bye.